Namaste, Namaskaram, Vanakkam, Swagatam. Let's begin by invoking the Guru Parampara. Om Tad Paramparaye Vidmahe Jnanalingeshwaraya Dhimahi Tanno Guru Prachodayate. Om Yoga Maharshi Dr. Swami Geetananda Giri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. This morning is still Purnima, Vyasa Guru Purnima. It started yesterday and last night we had our very beautiful ceremonial observation of this event at Kamli Swami Madam. Swamiji had a nice birthday bash, and it is so amazing that this year so many things have come together. And the 24th of July, which is Swamiji's calendar birthday, he was born 24th of July 1907, and today would have been 114. Well, he is 114 because he lives on through his teachings. And he was born on a very special day, the Vyasa Guru Purnima. He also attained Samadhi on a very special day, Arudra Darshana. So he really chose a good day to be born and a good day to leave the physical body. It's not too often that the 24th of July and Vyasa Purnima come together. So this is a momentous occasion where we can celebrate Swamiji's birthday according to the what in India we call English calendar, and also in tune with the Indian cultural calendar. A magnificent human being. A magnificent human being who has left such a legacy of invaluable, priceless, timeless teachings. And every day of my life, I become more and more aware of what a great gift these teachings are, how they are transforming so many lives, how fortunate I am to be the flag bearer of this tradition, and the responsibility that comes with it, a responsibility to share, care unconditionally with love. On this day, Swamiji's Jayanti, Guru Purnima, I salute this great lion of Pondicherry, the yoga lion of the world, in fact. And I reiterate my commitment to taking the tradition forward and his teachings forward with a sense of responsibility, a sense of gratitude, and a sense of dignity, grace, and beauty. This morning, we are looking at the concept of Bija. Bija. And if you are Hindi speaking, it becomes Bij, because the end A gets cut off. If you are from the south of India, it becomes Bijam, because we add a M to it. Bij, Bijam, Bija. A simple translation tells you it means a seed. A seed. And it can be written, when we write it in English, as or Beeja, because when you write it as Beeja, you get the pronunciation better. It's not Bija, but it's Bija. Bija. A seed of infinite potential. Ja means to give birth. A seed that has the capacity to give birth to what seems like infinity. Aneka. Eka means one, aneka means countless. You cannot count it. Aneka, we say. As in the Guru Stotra, we say, Aneka janma samprapta karma bandha vidahine atma jnana pradhanena tasmai shri gurave namaha. The Guru who enables us to eradicate the karma bondage, the karma baggage of countless incarnations. Aneka janma. A seed is a single unit. A seed is a single unit that has infinite potential hidden within it. A seed seems to be very humble. Oh, it's just a seed, a single seed. What can it do? Just a seed. In one seed can lie a future forest. Don't forget that. In one seed can lie an entire future forest. It's a very humbling thought. A seed is the reservoir of a potential that has yet to manifest. The potential is there, but it is yet to manifest. So what enables the potential that is hidden in the seed, the latent potential to manifest? Well, that is where prana comes in. Prana, the life force. Because a seed that doesn't have the life force, that is not infused with the life force, will not create anything. It will just decay. But a seed infused by the pranic life force will then actualize its potential. So having a seed is important. But having a seed that is pranically surcharged is even more important. If you think of yoga as a seed, the yoga bija, there's in fact an Upanishad called that. If you think of yoga as a seed, whether it is going to manifest its infinite potential or not depends on the presence and absence of prana, the life force. So a seed needs to have life force. It needs to be nourished. So how do you nourish a seed? You take a seed, you water it. You plant it in fertile soil. So a seed needs to be planted in fertile soil. It needs to be watered and tended with care. You have to tend to it. Tender care. Tending to it with care. You plant a seed in a fertile ground. So the kshetra, the fertile ground is important. Tending to it. What is it to tend to something? To be mindful of it. To love it. When you are mindful of something, when you love it, then what manifests is that you start to focus your mindfulness. And we all know the famous statement. Yato mana tata prana. So when you plant a seed, you have to have the wisdom, the viveka, to plant it in a fertile soil. You have to nourish it, take care of it, be a caretaker, someone who takes care of it. You have to water it. You have to see whether it is in the right environment. This is where nature versus nurture is the debate you always find. Debates will never end up with any solution because a debate is based on proving somebody else wrong. Either you are right or I am right is a debate. A discussion is much better. Because in a discussion, you are able to come to a common ground. So it is not nature versus nurture. It is nature and nurture working together harmoniously. Nature and nurture. This is like science and art have to work together. Spirituality and science have to work together. Nature is the potential. Nature is the potential that lies in that seed. But nurture is the mindfulness that enables that potential to manifest and become an actuality. You often hear people say, especially when children are in school, he's a potentially talented student. A potentially good student, a potentially talented student, a potentially great student. When you're playing cricket, I remember my senior used to say, you have the potential to get into the Indian team. You have the potential, but the problem is I never got into it. You have the potential, but then you have to work on it, okay? Just having the potential will do nothing for you. They say born with a silver spoon. It doesn't matter what spoon you are born with. If you don't nurture it, it will become a plastic spoon and ultimately there will be no spoon. So you have the seed, the bija, the bijam, the bij. You have to mindfully nurture it. Take care of it. Tenderly, with tender care. You have to tend to it with tenderness. And then that seed, because of its inherent potential, nature, in the environment, nurture, will start to manifest its potential, and that one seed can become a forest when all these factors come together. We always talk about seeds with regard to the plants, the trees, the flowers and all. In fact, when we talk about the classifications of living beings, Udbija are the 2.1 million beings that come out of seed. Udbija, to arise from seed. Udbija. But we often forget we began our life, this lifetime, as a seed. The seed from the father, the sperm. The seed from the mother, the ovum. The seed from the father, the sperm, is the smallest single cell. I am going to repeat that. The sperm from the father is the smallest single cell. The ovum from the mother is the largest single cell. Nature really has a beautiful sense of humor. The smallest single cell has to combine with the largest single cell. For a single cell to be produced, that is you, me, and all of us. The seed, which is the potential, the spermatozoa of your father, had his potential all into it. The ovum of your mother had all her potential in it. And half of your father's potential and half of your mother's potential from their seed came together to form one seed, which was your potential. That single cell resulting from the coming together of your father and mother's single cells, this is the one place where 1 plus 1 doesn't become 2. 1 plus 1 became a new one. 1 plus 1 became a new one. That single cell. And you know what? For that single cell of you to be produced, millions and millions of your father's single cells, every ejaculate contains at least 100 to 200 million, huge number, 100 to 200 million spermatozoa, all trying to go and attain that oneness with the ovum, one single ovum. Your mother only has to produce one ovum. Your father has to produce hundreds of millions of sperms, of which one sperm combines with the ovum. And suddenly, your infinite potential has been manifest as a single seed. It was hypothetical till that moment. You were a hypothetical possibility or a plausibility, probability, as Shrikant said the other day. I love the fact he had worked it out mathematically that we need about 800 lifetimes to get through Swamiji's practices in the yoga step by step. The probability here, hundreds of millions of sperms are required for one sperm to combine with one ovum and create that single cell which is your potential. And in that single cell lies everything you are capable of. Frightening, huh? Mind-boggling. And we take everything for so granted. To have the opportunity to be human, to have the opportunity to desire liberation, and to have the opportunity to be guided by the wise. These are the three greatest gifts that life has given us, says Adi Shankara in the Viveka Chudamani. And then we complain. A race of complainers. Race of eternal complainers. That's the modern humans. Infinite potential that lies in that single cell that then divides and divides and divides and divides and creates you. That you that is existing right now. With all your words and things that rhyme with it that come out the other side as gas. All of that is you, your infinite potential. For the good, bad and the smelly. Everything lies there. And then we have to ask ourselves, are we truly manifesting that potential that lies in us? Have we nurtured the nature that lies within us? Have we tended with care that which lies within us? And are we giving an opportunity for that infinite potential to manifest? So, Bija as a seed, we as the result of a seed, and then how do you work on this seed? Yoga. Yoga is that which enables us to tend to our potential with care. Yoga sadhana is a process of mindful tending to one's potential so that it can manifest step by step, pade pade. We work with our body, we work with our mind, we work with our emotions. We try to understand the Atma that lies within us. And in doing so, through Atma Vichara, inquiry into the self, through Tapaswadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhana, we start to work on manifesting that inherent potential that is there in us. Swami Vivekananda often is quoted to have said, every soul is divine potential. Every soul is potentially divine. What he meant is everyone is potentially divine. The divinity is our essential nature. It is the potential that lies within us. But how many of us make it? How many of those talented students actually actualize it? Or, that talented cricketer Ananda who never became that cricket star that he was to be because he went on a different path. This is where the yoga sadhana comes in, because we start to become mindful of that which lies within us, the infinite potential. Now, this infinite potential in order to tap into it, one of the best methodologies has been given through the work that we do with what are called Bija Mantra or Bija Akshara, Bijakshara, Bija Akshara, Bijakshara. Akshara means that which cannot be broken down into anything else. The unbreakable. Unbreakable means that oneness that cannot be broken down. Akshara. You cannot, Kshara cannot happen. Akshara. Kshara is to destroy. Kshaya is to diminish. Akshara means that which cannot be broken down further. And each of our shabda in Sanskrita are an akshara. Whether they be the swara, that is the vowels, or whether they be the consonants, the vignan. Each of them is an akshara, a single unit of sound. These single units of sound have been utilized by the yogis. And this type of work is very much attributed to the Atharva Veda. Because the work with the chakras, the work with the bijas is primarily a tantric technology. And Tantra owes its origin to the Atharva Veda. There are a lot of yoga scholars these days who are trying to give a twist to it. Upekshanam is the way forward with such people. Dharma has to shine bright for adharma to be dissipated. The Atharva Veda has the root source, the seeds of Tantra and the work that today is taken forward with regard to the Bijakshara and the chakras. So when we want to understand our potential, each of the chakras has its own key sound, like a key word, like your password. And in order to awaken the infinite potential that lies in you, as connected or disconnected to the chakra, these Bijaksharas are the magic word you need, magical mantras. So the Bija Akshara, single unit sounds. The single unit sounds that can awaken the sleeping potential, the dormant potential. Now the Bija itself, if you look at the actual sound, the consonants and the vowels, they are simple sounds when it is the Samskrita Varnamala. A, I, U, K, K, G, G, Ng, Ch, Ch, J, J, Ng. These are the Varnamala. So for example, if I take a sound, because all the divinities have the Bijakshara. And who is a better person to start with than Lord Ganesha himself? Ganapati, Ganesha, Gananatha, Vigneshwara, Vignaraja, Vinayaka. The sound associated with Ganapati is Ga. Like Ganapati, Ganesha, Ga. So the sound that is associated with Ganapati is Ga. So this is the word that is there in the language, the Varnamala. This is called Vaikari. Vaikari is the level of sound, Vaikari Nada, or Vaikari Shabda, or Vaikari Vak. Vaikari is where we are expressing it at our level of Jagrat. We are wakeful and we are expressing it. I am talking to you. Hopefully you are awake and I am awake, at least physically, if not, spiritually. We are having a communication at the audible level. I say something, you hear it and you understand it. This is a Vaikari level of Shabda, Nada and Vak. Vaikari Vak, it is being expressed, it is audible and it is being communicated between two people who are awake. Jagrat, the state of wakefulness. So the Ga, which is the language, the Varnamala, is at the level of Vaikari Nada. Now, when you want to awaken the potential, you need to go deeper. So the mind has to flow there. For the mind to flow there, remember Yato Mana Tata Prana, where the mind goes, the energy flows. That potential has to be awakened. So the potential is there in the Ga. It has to be awakened. And so there has to be a pranic infusion that is guided by the manasika focus, the mental focus. And this is where the second level of speech comes in, called Madhyama, where now the sound is becoming a mental communication. So instead of being a verbal, audible communication, Vaikari, it becomes Madhyama. And this Madhyama is actually at the level of what we will call Swapna, the dream state. Because the mind is still active. The conscious mind, Manas, is still active here. So it is a Manasika. So the uttered sound has become Manasika. He's become mental. This is where from Vaikari it is going to Madhyama, powered by the mind and energizing it at the level of what would be the Swapna consciousness. Now you have to go deeper into what is called Pasianthi. Pasianthi means that which can be seen, that which can be perceived by the eyes of wisdom, the Jnana Drishti. This is why the rishis perceived what was in Pasianthi and then communicated it down to us in Vaikari. At the Pasianthi level, it is, people say it's the subconscious, unconscious. I say more than that, it is like the collective unconscious that Young and others have talked about. You are tapping into the collective unconsciousness and tapping into what is the causal state. So Vaikari is the gross state, Sthula. Madhyama is at the Sukshma. Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, all that is coming in. Now you're going from the Vijnanamaya Kosha to Anandamaya Kosha when you go into the next one, which is Pasianthi. Pasianthi is now going into the level of causal, Karana Sharira. So, Vaikari Vak is that which is expressed audibly at the gross level and we are wakeful. We then go into the mid-level, Madhyama level, which is the mental communication. The mental communication which is at the subtle level, that is now into the Swapna. This is why all your dreams and all are coming in the Madhyama level, the communication. The non-verbal communication that your subconscious, unconscious makes with you and sends dreams and symbols, all that. You then go into Sushupti, the deepest state of sleep, which is the non-REM sleep where you connect with the cosmos because you are not there anymore. It's the collective unconscious and you are connecting. In that Sushupti, you understand who you are. Sushupteka Siddha, as Adi Shankara tells us. Na bhumin na toyam na tejo na vayu na kamnendriyam va na teshan samoha anaikantikatvat shushupteka siddham tadeko vashishtam shivakevaloham. In that Sushupti, because in that Sushupti, you are starting to connect to the causal. So Vaikari, see, when it is created, it comes the other way. When we are making our effort, I'm talking about now the sadhana, which is based on the Yogacharya, the Bija Mantra. You are uttering the sound at the audible level. It has to become Madhyama, it has to become at a mental energy level. It has to go to the causal layer level. Anandamaya Kosha and the Sukshma Sharira, and it has to go into the Sushupti state. So it is like that plonking. Remember my ripple effect? I always talk about ripple yoga. Tim and Salvesh. Ripple yoga. See, I'm selling your website and your app, your digital yoga app. The plonk is expressed. You can hear the plonk. Everybody knows there was a plonk. There was a stone. Hey, what happens? Who threw the stone in the water? That is at the Vaikari level. The Vaikari level, then it goes. The Vaikari level goes into the Madhyama. Now it is subtle. It goes even more subtle. You can see it. First you can see it and then you cannot see it anymore. It's become so subtle. And then you don't see the ripple anymore. You say, now there's no ripple. But it's continuing into the transcendental. So the plonk was where it started and it goes from gross to subtle to causal and then it transcends into the fourth state. So you're going from Jagrat, wakefulness, to Swapna, dream, to Sushupti, dreamless, and then Turiya, which is where you have transcended it. Similarly, the Bijakshara has to go from the gross to the subtle to the causal and then transcend it where it becomes one with the transcendental. How is this done? So we said Vaikari, Madhyama, Pasianthi, and the final one is Para, P-A-R-A, Para, which means the highest. Vaikari is where it is audible. It is then potentiated from the audible into the inaudible. It becomes the subtlest and then it goes into that, beyond that. From the state of Sthula, Sukshma, Karana and Trisharira Atita. Trisharira Atita. Kalatraya Atitaha, Dehatraya Atitaha, Avasthaya Atitaha, Jagrat Swapna Sushupti Atitaha Turiya. You are having this journey going. It starts with express sound. So I said Ganesha, his sound is Ga. Now this is just a sound. This is a language level. How do you now potentiate it? So you have to have the plonk effect. Now you will find a lot of people talking about just the makara, the Now the makara is a sound that is at the highest level. It is at the karana sharira. Remember, akara a is at the stula, ukara u is at the sukshma, and is at the karana sharira. And that is why when it becomes om, it becomes transcendental. It goes into the turiya. It goes into the para. Akara, ukara, makara, omkara. Jagrat, swapna, shushupti, turiya. Vaikari, madhyama, Pasianthi, para. You will start to see all these correlates coming together. The pieces are coming together. That is at the causal. So what has happened is, you have in the Ganesha Atharva Sirsha, it talks about this. It says, Gakara Purva Rupam, Gakara Purva Rupam, Gakara, making the Ga. Gakara Purva Rupam. So, it starts with it. Akaro Madhyama Rupam, Anuswaras Chanta Rupam. Anuswaras Anta, end. Starts with the Ga. In between you have the A. So the Ga is the consonant that has to come with the A, which is the vowel. It has to then move into the subtle, from the subtle to the causal. Gakara Purva Rupam, Akaro Madhyama Rupam, Anuswaras Chanta Rupam. Atharva Veda. Ganesha Atharva Sirsha, this is called. Remember, I told you all of this owes its origin to Atharva Veda. Don't let people tell you that Tantra is a modern invention that came from something else. Seriously. So, Gakara Purva Rupam, Akaro Madhyama Rupam, Anuswaras Chanta Rupam. Then you have to go beyond that. Bindu Rutta Rupam. There has to be a Bindu. Anuswaras Chanta Rupam, Bindu Rutta Rupam, Nada Sandhanam Sahita Santihi, Shesha Ganesha Vidya Ganaka Rishihi, Nithrud Gayatri Chandaha, Ganapatir Devahatta, Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. This is an verse straight from the Ganesha Atharva Sirsha. Om Gakara Purva Rupam, Akaro Madhyama Rupam, Anuswaras Chanta Rupam, Bindu Rutta Rupam, Nada Sandhanam Sahita Sandhihi, Shesha Ganesha Vidya Ganaka Rishihi, Nithrud Gayatri Chandaha, Ganapatir Devata, Om Ganganapadaye Namaha. Then comes the discussion, Ekadantam Chaturhastam, and all of that comes. That is specially for Ganesha Dhyana. Here, the core today is, the root sound of Ganesha is Ga. Ig, which is the consonant, has to become Ga by adding the A. It then has to become Gam by the Anuswara. But then it is not just Ig plus A becoming Gam, but it has to go beyond Gam into the Bindu, which is Gang. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. You will hear a lot of compositions. Gam Gam Ganapate, Om Gam Ganapate, Gam Ganapate Namaha. You will find all of these compositions. Gam Ganapate, Gam Ganapate. You will find this, Gam. Because Gam is the esoteric sound. It is the inner sound. But it has to first be potentiated. You have to awaken at that plank, which is where the Chandra Bindu comes in. Remember Bindu Rupam, that Chandra Bindu, where the sound gets potentiated by it becoming a nasal twang. Gang. Ga. Ig plus A becomes Ga, which is at the Vaikari level. You wanted to move into Madhyama and go into Pasianthi, which is where Gang has to occur. That Gang, at the residual end of it, the after tone starts to go in the reverse order back to the source. It's called Prati. Prati means to go back to the source, to the subtle. So you are making something so that then the residue, which is the aftertone, the prati will start to manifest, and you start to then help that sound move from Vaikari to Madhyama to Pasianthi to Para. So ga, if you just go around saying ga, 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 it is only language. It is only language of a communication between people. Like babies go ga, 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 and the parents are like, hey, they're speaking. Yeah, ga, 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 ga. That ga has to become potentiated. Gang. You have to give it that rocket thrust. Two guys recently went into space and are trying to sell tickets. I love that idea, one-way ticket to Mars. There are a lot of people who would love that. You need that rocket thrust to get into space. That is that gang. Gang. Like gung ho. You have to be gung ho. You have to gang. And that's where Ganesha comes out of the Mooladhara. Mooladhara is where Ganesha is. The potential energy. And a beautiful composition. Vatapi Ganapatim Bhaje Ham Vatapi Ganapatim Bhaje Ham Vatapi Ganapatim Bhaje Ham Vatapi Ganapatim Bhaje Ham. In the Charanam Muthuswami Dikshita, these people, they could see the Pasianthi. He expressed it in the Vaikari. He says, Parakumbha Shambhava Munivara Prapujitam Trikona Madhyagatam. There is a Trikona at the base of the spine. Trikona Madhyagatam Murari Pramukatyubasitam Mooladhara Kshetra Stitam. Ganesha is residing in the Mooladhara, where there is the Trikona Madhya. And what is he then saying? Parari, Paradi, from Para, Paradi, Chatvari, the four types of speech. Chatvari Vak, we talked about. He is saying Para. Why is he saying Para? Because from the transcendental it is coming down. Paradi, Chatvari, Vakatmajam. You are the Atmajam. You are the essential being that manifests all of this. That is why I am using the example of Ganesha today. So Ga becomes, you need to potentiate it. It has to move from Vaikari to Madhyama. Gang. And then at the next level, it moves from Gang to Gam. Gang becomes Gam. Ga becomes Gang. Gang becomes Gam. And then Gam tapers into the transcendental. You cannot make the transcendental. It's transcendental, okay? Everybody wants to have a personalized universal experience. It is universal. It cannot be personalized anymore. The persona has to be discarded for the universal to manifest. You have to unmask yourself for the universe to flow through you. My dear Avini yesterday wrote a beautiful blog on this unmasking. It is so wonderful when the young children can understand these teachings. What a beautiful bija being planted, a seed being planted in their consciousness for the future. You have to go. Ga has to become, Ga is language, has to become potentiated by the Gang, which is where the energy, the manas, the mind is focusing the energy, the prana, and the seed is getting activated. And then it is flowering into its potential. Ga to Gang to Gam and then beyond. And this is why when my father used to go to a Ganesha temple, he used to chant. And he would add it. Not just Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha, but he would add the three important sounds of A. He used to bring that into it. So it would be Gang, Gang, Gaum. Three aspects of the vowel sounds. Ga, Ga and Gau. And they are potentiated. So when you potentiate them, Gang, Gang, Gaum, Ganapate. So he would go, Om Gang, Gang, Gaum, Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gang, Gang, Gaum, Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gang, Gang, Gaum, Ganapataye Namaha. And the whole temple would vibrate with his energy. and Lord Ganesha would come alive because he was called as he was meant to be called. You go and they go, Ganesha is like, are you talking to me or somebody else? You hear people. In the middle of the puja, the pandit, I'll come tomorrow for puja. Yeah, pay me tomorrow. Okay, yeah. Ganapati will not come. The mind has to be focused. Yato manattata prana. And you have to potentiate that seed of the ga. Gakara purva rupam, makaro madhyama rupam, anuswaras chanta rupam, bindu rutta rupam has to manifest as gang, gang, gaum, ganapate namaha. You can chant the whole of the consonants, vowels through this. Gang, gang, ging, ging, gung, gung, like that. Ga. It ends at the end with the visarga. This is where we have to understand when we want to create the aftertone, the prati, which then moves into the para. We want to reverse it. See, normally the creation, as I said, is para, Pasianthi, Madhyama, Vaikari. This is how the creation has occurred. You are retracing, you are going prati prasava. You are going in the reverse. Prati prasava. Prasava is to be born. Prati prasava is to go against it. The Tamil word for giving birth, labor, is called prasavam. Prati prasava. Maharishi Patanjali talks about it. Prati prasava. He is going reverse. You have to go now from the stula. This is where you are stuck. Stula, you have to go into the sukshma. There is a bang from gross to subtle you have to make. And immediate, great effort. And yes, Meena, it is involution. You are involuting prati prasava. Manifestation is evolution. Involution is going back to the source. Prati prasava, kaivalyam has to occur. It has to go in the reverse. So that prati has to be produced first by the gross. And that is where the bell has to clang. I was going to bring a bell, but this morning forgot about it. Last night when I was going, I said, I have to take a bell and ring it and show them. And that will be another class. But imagine you have a bell and you ring it. When you ring the bell, there's the clanging sound, the clanging of the bell. That is the nga. Ga becoming gang. Gang. You can feel the force in it. The force required so that the gross can become the subtle. Stula can become sukshma. For that you need effort, rocket thrust to get into space. That propulsive energy is the nga. Gang. So that bell will ring, there's a clang, and then after that there will be that very beautiful tapering aftertone as it goes into that prati. This is where the shabda is going from the stula sukshma to the karana. There is the prati movement, pratiloma movement. The loma is in this way. This is the viloma or pratiloma. You are going in the reverse order. So you have to make the clanging. And this is why when the Bijaksharas are taught, you really need a living tradition, okay? Yesterday I posted an old talk of mine at Indica's event in Bangalore when it was still live. Last 2 years we have done it online. We have talked of the importance of the Guru Shishya, the living tradition. So important. Because if you just look at a book, it says gum. If you just read it off the internet, it says the sound for Mooladhara is lam. Lam. The sound for Swadhisthana is bum. Manipura ram. So lam, vam, ram, yam, hum, am, om. And I've gone to sleep. I've gone to sleep. It is a very good tranquilizer. Lam, vam, ram, yam, am, om, lam, vam, yam. And you see people sitting for meditation and after a few minutes we had a big guru do that in Pondicherry some years ago. Sitting on stage, fell asleep. He's sitting like this. And so all his shishyas also started doing this new technique of meditation with the chin to the jugular notch, Chalanta Bandha meditation. Lam, vam, lam. I'm doing Laya Yoga. I'm activating my chakras. And the blind lead the blind, all fall into the ditch. I have nothing against the blind. I'm talking of people who can see and are blind. I'm not talking of those who cannot see. May they get the sight restored by all means, especially the cadaveric eye donation. I wish more people would give that, because so many people are blind and all it needs is, someone who's died to donate the eyes. So I totally support that. Our Jyoti Eye Care, Dr. Vanaja Vaidyanathan is doing such an amazing job in Pondicherry. So I have nothing against the blind. I have a lot against those who can see and choose to be blind. And so the teacher goes, let's all activate the Mooladhara, Lam, Vam, Ram. The chakras like, come on, you need a bit more rocket, propulsive thrust, huh? To get things moving. You try to kickstart anything. Have you ever had to, in your scooters, if your, auto ignition doesn't work, you have to kickstart it. How much effort it takes to kickstart a scooter in those days when they had to rotate like this to get the car started before you have all these buttons and automatic ignitions. The effort required is there. People don't realize it. And you want to awaken yourself to the potential of the chakra by just going lam, lam, lam. Yes, but the book says it. Yes, the book was for the guidance of the wise, not for the obedience of fools. Paraphrasing my beloved mentor Madan Mohan Sir's statement. Books are for the guidance of the wise and obedience of fools. Don't be a fool, be wise. Use it to guide you on your sadhana. Read between the lines. Read behind the lines. When you make the sound, you have to make it with the bindu utta. The Chandra bindu has to come alive. So, lang, vang, rang, yang, hang, ang, ong. Even that om becomes a ong when it becomes a bijakshara. Lang, vang, rang, yang, hang, ang, ong, lang, vang, rang, yang, hang, ang, om, lang, vang, rang, yang, ang, om, lang, vang, rang, yang, ang, om. Then you are activating, you are giving that rocket propulsive thrust that you need. Thrust. I keep on saying thrust. Thrust that you need. And then once that movement starts, the plonking effect has started, the ripple effect from Vaikari, you have potentiated it by your mindfulness, by your energy. It has been potentiated to move into the Madhyama. And then it automatically will start to go into the Pasianthi. This movement from the gross into the subtle. See, even in the koshas, the Sthula Sharira and Annamaya Kosha are correlated. When you talk about the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle existence, it involves the three levels. Manomaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya and Vijnanamaya. The energy, the mind and the discernment. So these three layers are there in the subtle. So once you get into the subtle, you will move further and further automatically from Pranamaya to Manomaya to Vijnanamaya. That movement will occur. And then it starts to percolate. That ripple starts to percolate into the Anandamaya Kosha, which is the Karana Sharira. But the toughest one is to move from gross to subtle. That is why you need that gang. That is why you need the lang, vang, rang. And then the bell has been rung. So now the rung, the bell rung becomes the ram. The ram is the aftertone, the prati of the sound that has been made. The loma has been made, the pratiloma is being created. You have to go against it. For that you have to start with the gross. So that is where the lung becomes the lum. You should not be making the lum, because you are trying to make something which is the subtle. It's like saying, I am trying to get the tapering effect, the residual aftertone of the bell without ringing the bell. You have to ring the bell. Last night in the puja, as we were doing the Deeparthana, the big bell is rung. Lung, dung, 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 dung. It doesn't go dum, 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 dung, lung, 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 lung. That's the type of ringing of the bell. And then that after effect, that aftertone, the residual prati is there. And that is where then the lum, the lum, rum, rum have to be, they have to occur. They have to occur. What you have to make is the power here. So, in order to work on the Bija Mantra sadhana, the Bijakshara Mantra sadhana, one requires a living tradition. One requires people who can guide you on this. And then these energies come alive, because the power of the seed has been awakened. I started off by saying, a seed, if it doesn't have the life force, it decays. It needs the life force. The life force requires mindfulness. Where the mind goes, the life force will follow. And this is why when we are doing the sadhana, the sadhana is one of absolute mindfulness into that center, and you are opening it up. You are opening up a door that hasn't been opened before. There's going to be a big effort required. That is why you invoke Ganesha and Mooladhara. Because you need that elephantine energy to kickstart it. You don't need a swan there. The swan is up in the Ajna. Because by then you have gone through this. You have refined your methodology. The methodology also has become refined along the way. Initially, you are going into a field that has never been tended. You are going to have a lot of hard work to do before you start to break down the earth and start to make it ready to be a fertile soil. The seed will not grow if the soil is not fertile. And that is why yoga, that timeless tradition of yoga, has sprouted and been nourished by the fertile soil of Indian culture, Sanatana Dharma. And that is where that seed has blossomed, been nourished, continues to be nourished. Please do not think this is a dead tradition. The tradition of yoga is a living tradition. It is a living tradition of yoga within a living culture of Sanatana Dharma that is even now nourishing it through every aspect of life. So when we want to manifest the power of the bija, the seed, we need to have a fertile soil. That is where our sadhana comes in. Preparing ourselves through yama niyama, the adhikara yoga, so that we are in a fertile soil. And then starting our sadhana through the asana pranayama, wherein through the asana pranayama you start to understand the gross, you start to understand the subtle, and then working through pratyahara dharana so that the mind level is now being focused. Then you can move into the dhyana and samadhi. So if you split it as yama niyama, asana pranayama, pratyahara dharana dhyana samadhi into two, yama niyama, asana pranayama, and if you start to understand it, you can again bring those four into the same concept. That you start off, where do you start? With the Vaikari, with the Stula, with the Jagrat. You then continue. You then start to move into the next level, the Madhyama, with the energy, the subtlety, the Sukshma and the Swapna. You then move into the next layer, which is the Karana, where you are working with the Karana aspects, you are working with the Pasianthi aspects, you are working with the Shushupti aspects. And then as this all comes in, you start to transcend it as you move into the Dhyana and Samadhi. Dhyana and Samadhi, where you are moving from that sense of me, from that me into the non-me-ness. The me and meanness moving into the non-me and non-meanness. And suddenly there is that movement from the individual to the universal, from the I to the we. And here when we are talking about This we are primarily only working on the prana here. So Gurulin, here apana doesn't come into it. It is so important here that it is the energy that is brought in to potentiate the seed, to activate the seed so that it can have this transformative journey. The rocket science of Bija is what is important. It has to move from that which is externalized, to that which is transcendental. Because when we talk about Lord Ganesha, we talk about him as the transcendental being. Nitanta Kanti Danta Kanta Manta Kanta Katmajam Achinta Rupa Manta Hina Mantaraya Krintanam Nitanta Kanti Danta Kanta Manta Kanta Katmajam Achinta Rupa Manta Hina Mantaraya Krintanam Hridantare Nirantaram Vasantameva Yoginam Hridantare nirantaram vasantameva yoginam tamekadantameva tam vichintayami santaram tamekadantameva tam vichintayami santaram. What a beautiful thought has been brought in by Adi Shankara into this composition. You will say, it's a song in praise of Ganesha. Everything is found in these compositions because it's a living tradition. You need to know what you're looking for. When you know what you're looking for, you will find it. Most people don't know what they're looking for. That is where people become blind. And the only way out of blindness, Ajnana Thimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We need the grace of the Guru Kripa. We need the grace of the divine Bhagavad Kripa for us to awaken, arise, and stop not till the goal is reached. Paraphrasing Swami Vivekananda today. Remembering today on Swamiji's birthday, 24th of July, and this time, this morning, we are still at the end of the full moon here. Vyasa Guru Purnima, offering my life as my tribute to Swamiji. Someone who has bestowed me with not only his physical genetics but the spiritual genetics and given me this path of Dharma, a path of Dharma to stand up for yoga, enabling the Dharma of yoga to shine bright. And those who are searching for it, may they be blessed by such a living tradition of timeless teachings. Offering my salutations to Swamiji, the Guru Parampara, all the Gurus of all the Paramparas. I was telling Ammaji the other night, both Swamiji and her have taught me to respect all traditions. I am not into one-upmanship of traditions at all. Every tradition for me is perfect within its own context. The modern tendency of taking traditions out of context and teachings out of context is where the problem lies. But each tradition is Purnam within its own context. Offering my salutations to all the Gurus, offering my salutations to all those great masters who with the generosity have given us so much. We are so fortunate. We are so blessed. And with that great fortune and great blessing comes great responsibility to share these teachings unconditionally. These are invaluable. Don't try to put a label, a sticker on them. Don't try to put a price on them. The moment you do that, you have just made them plastic. Share unconditionally, share lovingly, share and care, for that's what we are here for. Dhanyavadaha, Danke, Nandri, Vanakkam. And as I learned yesterday, thanks to my dear Sri Lankan yoga family, there's a beautiful word, Ayubovan, which is just such a blessing. So just love that. It's the Ayushman Bhava of Samskrita, Ayushman Bhava. And Ayubovan is such a beautiful word. Ciao, ciao. Adios. Nandri Vanakkam.